Hi, folks. Thanks for joining us. We'll be starting in 2 minutes. In the chat, let us know who you are and where you're from, and we'll get started in 2 minutes. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for the NASA SBIR Ignite Ask Me Anything session. Today is going to be focused on aviation batteries and point-of-use recycling. For structure, we're going to do 15 minutes just to give an overview about NASA SBIR Ignite and the program, and then we'll give 5 minutes over to some of our subject matter experts from NASA to talk about aviation batteries. And then last but not least, we'll have one of our SMEs to talk about point-of-use recycling, and then the remainder of the time will be left for Q&A. So we'll get started here, and I'll hand it over to Haley.
Thanks, Donna. Hi, I'm Haley Dowd. I am the Center Liaison for the SBIR program at Marshall Space Flight Center. I am also supporting the NASA SBIR Ignite team. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what Ignite is all about to give you an overview. If you've joined one of our previous sessions, you've kind of seen some of these details, but hopefully you'll get some good information from our subject matter experts. Next slide, please, Donna. All right, so first of all, what is SBIR really about, and what do small businesses get from working and participating in this program? So SBIR was started in the 1980s, and we're one of many agencies that work with an SBIR program. It really provides funding for early stage research and development, so you have an opportunity to develop your technologies or products. The great thing about SBIR and STTR are that you get funding early. So during the first 3 years that you work with the SBIR program, you get up to $1.15 million. And that can grow beyond those 3 years to up to $3 million as you work through post-phase 2 opportunities. And the awesome part about that is NASA takes zero equity. So you keep all of your intellectual property, which is really unusual, but it gives you the seed fund to really start work on your technology. The awesome thing about working with NASA on this is that you also get access to our subject matter experts and guidance to learn what NASA is interested in along the way as you're working with us. And you get the potential opportunity to work with NASA programs and get connections to other government agencies that may be interested in your technology. Next slide. So first, I want to share some uses of SBIR technologies on NASA missions that are really high visibility. So a great example is the Perseverance rover. And there are several SBIR technologies that are being used for the science missions that are related to Perseverance. So just to highlight a few examples, Motive Space Systems supply the robotic arm that's used for some of the work that's happening. And then there are, various technologies, dust mitigation tools, materials that are provided. So we really do make use of these investments that we make. And we look forward to working with your technology and infusing that into NASA missions. But for Ignite, we're also looking at opportunities beyond NASA, and that's really the differentiator for Ignite. But we'll talk more about that as we get into the Ignite specifics. Next slide. All right, so how does SBIR fit into NASA's greater strategic goals? So in the 2022 strategic plan, the third strategic goal is to catalyze economic growth and drive innovation to address national challenges. And SBIR fits the bill here really well. So we make investments that build up small businesses so that your small businesses can really grow and impact the national economy. Next slide. All right, so what is NASA SBIR STTR's mission within the greater scope, and what is our vision? And I think the vision is where I want to start because it's really impactful. So we really want to see a world where any entrepreneur can benefit humanity. So we want to give opportunities to small businesses like yourself so that you have the opportunity to bring your technology to market. You can have an impact on what's happening in the world today. And our mission is empowering all small business communities to imagine, build, and utilize revolutionary technologies to drive NASA and the national economy to reach new heights. Next slide. So now I kind of want to start talking about how we started working with the Ignite pilot concept and where the original impetus for the initiative started. So if you look at the space economy in 2020, you see in purple the US government space budgets. And you see that's really a fairly small slice currently of the larger space economy. And a big portion of that now is commercial space products. And that's been a shift from historically governments putting in the majority of funds for space-driven technologies. So as we're looking at this shift, it's important to remember, though, that there's still a gap in that commercial funding. And there's really an opportunity for government and public and private partnership to bring forward impactful technologies. So we're looking at opportunities where the SBIR program can provide that government side of that partnership to push forward technologies that can eventually end up in the commercial market. Next slide. All right. So the SBIR Ignite pilot initiative started 2 years ago. It's part of a 3-year pilot. And we're really encouraging the participation of product-driven companies that are not looking at NASA as their primary customer. Obviously, it needs to be something that is NASA adjacent and that NASA is interested in and can be a customer for, but is not the only customer that you're considering. The goal is to have opportunities where firms can get that extra bit of push from NASA via funding and some of the coaching and community building that we do to be able to bring their technology, product, service to market. It has the same 3 phases that SBIR, what we call mainline, the bulk of our SBIR awards follows that same process. And we're currently working on the solicitation now and expect that to open this summer. So keep an eye out for that. Just as a little background and scope for the scale of Ignite, because it is a pilot, it is a smaller community of firms that are funded. In 2022, we had 12 companies that were selected for phase 1 awards. All of those firms were selected for phase 2 awards when their opportunity came available in 2023. For 2023 Ignite, we funded 10 companies, and they are currently in their phase 1 period of performance and starting to plan out their phase 2 proposals. Next slide. All right, so what does this really look like for you? Like I mentioned, we follow the same phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 sort of progression. You have the same opportunities for funding for those first 2 phases as you would in our mainline solicitation. So $150,000 for 6 months during phase 1 for your idea generation. And for phase 2, $850,000 for your prototype development. One thing to note here is that we do suggest an accelerated schedule. So we promote having a shorter phase 2 period of performance if possible, just so you can get your product to market sooner. We do have a 24-month maximum on that. You have the same post phase 2 opportunities available to you, and we have firms that are starting to look at those now from the 2022 cohort. And you also have the opportunity to get I-Corps and TABA funds through this process. The solicitation is a little bit different than our mainline solicitation, and it's really geared towards lightening the lift that you, as the small business, have to put in for proposal development. So there's a less prescriptive solicitation, and you have a shorter proposal and some slides that you prepare. If you want to look through last year's solicitation for conceptual guidance on what the proposal requirements will look like, that is a great place to go, and it's available on the SBIR Ignite website. And then we also have fewer topics. So the topics that are in the Ignite solicitation are unique to Ignite. And there's a smaller quantity because we're making fewer awards. One of the really great things about Ignite, though, is our engagement processes. And you're already involved in some of those now and can see how those are different by being involved in the Ask Me Anythings. But we also do a lot of other community building activities. And for our cohort that's selected, we have coaching to help those firms as well. There's a Slack channel for, really convenient conversations to ask questions. So there's a lot of contact points with Ignite. So it's a great opportunity to really get plugged into what's going on. Next slide. These are our topics from fiscal year 23 and 22. So you can see we did have 5 topics in 23 and 6 topics in 22. These topics are really selected based on our understanding of the commercial markets related to these areas and whether or not we think that the product will be able to go to market pretty quickly. So we're in the process of reviewing those topics for our next solicitation right now. Next slide. So I mentioned that we have better, more involved engagement with SBIR Ignite. Part of that is our Catalyst events that are held. These are great opportunities for firms to get connected to our NASA subject matter experts, other industry partners that we have, and other potential investors. So these are meetings that are organized by BMT, which Donna is a representative of, and allow for one-on-one discussions with potential investors, including groups from NASA, to understand what's of interest, what is out in the market as we understand it now, and really learn about, what's really important to what we're looking at. These are typically aligned to major conferences. And in that case, they would be like a hybrid event where you could be in person or you could join virtually. We also have occasional virtual catalysts in case there's not a conference that aligns with the timing that we need. We do have one coming up that I want to highlight, and we'll highlight this again. But we have applications right now if you want to take the opportunity to have a one-on-one type meeting during the Catalyst event. Those applications are open now, and I think they're due the 20th of April. And the topic for the next coming Catalyst event is on aviation batteries. So if you're here for that discussion today, that may be a really valuable event for you to be involved in. If you can't join in, that event is going to be held in Chicago on May 6th. If you can't join for that in person, there will be a virtual option that you can join. So it looks like Donna posted that information in the chat. So take advantage of that if you can and submit an application. Next slide. Oh, so I kind of beat myself to the punch. So here's the discussion about the upcoming Ignite Catalyst event in Chicago. And it has the link for participating in that event as well. Let that sit up there for just a second. We are recording this session, and we'll be posting the recording on the SBIR Ignite website also if you want to review these details again. Next slide. All right, so notionally, what does the Ignite program schedule look like and where are the connection points? So like I mentioned, we've been holding Catalyst events for Ignite to understand the market surrounding some of the areas that we think we may be interested in for the solicitation. You can see that those have been happening since the beginning of January, and those run up until we're ready to release the solicitation. And we are also having Ask Me Anythings, which you are involved in currently. We have a series of 6 of those planned. So if you have interest in other topics, check out our website for those topics so that you can touch base on those. BMNT also offers coaching along the way to support firms. So topics that they have had before are like pitching and telling your story, how to evaluate your investors. There's a lot of good guidance there. So I highly suggest like looking into that to see if you want to participate. And then, like I mentioned, we expect the solicitation to release in the early summer. Next slide. All right, so how do you stay up to date on what's going on? You can sign up to receive the NASA SBIR STTR newsletter. You can do that on our website. If you want specific information about Ignite and our schedule, that's all located on the SBIR Ignite website. You can see that right now we're in the aviation, batteries, and recycling. Ask Me Anything. We have 2 more coming up in the next couple of weeks. And if you want to learn more about the community building activities, you can go to the links below. You can also join the Slack channel, and that's a wealth of information and an opportunity to communicate with us as well as other firms that are interested in Ignite. And so kind of building out your network. And then if you have questions generally about SBIR and STTR programs, you can always go to the Small Business Administration's website. Next slide. Yeah, that's it. I think we're going to have an opportunity for you to put more questions in the Q&A, and then Donna's going to guide us through the next steps of this meeting.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks so much, Haley. And if anyone has any questions about the SBIR Ignite program, feel free to drop any questions into the Q&A function in the bottom center of your screen. Let me just stop screen sharing here. And next off, we're going to hand it over to Shay and Susanna to talk a little bit more about aviation batteries and their interest areas in that topic area. So Shay and Susanna, over to you.
All right, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Shay Elfritz. I'm an engineer here at the NASA Glide Research Center, and where I'm focusing in the development of hybrid electric and fully electric aircraft. So I'm involved in a few projects where we are testing unconventional methods for battery packaging, mainly focusing in additive manufacturing methodology. Along with that, we are looking at different electrical connections and controls, thermal management techniques with the goal of reducing the overall parasitic mass of the energy storage system to further the effectiveness of state-of-the-art batteries. Along with that, we are trying to develop these modules to also allow for advanced chemistries to replace these state-of-the-art batteries as those cells. So to put it short, I've been working on developing prototype battery modules that can be utilized on smaller scale electric aircraft and UAVs, while also advancing and enabling the electrified flight of commercial aircraft. Over to you, Suzanne.
Thanks, Shay. I'm Susanna Kowaleski, and I'm an electrical engineer at NASA Glenn Research Center. Also, I work on mostly motor converters and research for motor converters. So these would be bidirectional, sometimes AC to DC, DC to AC motor converters that could be used in a hybrid electric aircraft powertrain that would interface with batteries like Shay's describing and like this solicitation is mainly focused on. My research we've done over the past few years, we're focused on increasing our specific power, getting better specific power numbers, increasing the power level of these converters, and having an integration path with a small UAV like 1500 to 5000 class UAV market, and also looking at how do we scale this technology for future full-size hybrid and electric aircraft along with the battery technology like Shay mentioned. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Shay and Susanna. And next over to Jeff to talk a little bit more about aluminum recycling as well as other point of use recycling. Over to you, Jeff.
Thank you, Donna. All right, my name is Jeff Smith. I am the Enterprise Strategic Manager for NASA's Deep Space Logistics Project, and our Deep Space Logistics Project is responsible for the cargo delivery missions to the Lunar Gateway orbiting platform, a small space station around the moon, and that also will serve the NASA's Artemis missions to put the first woman and the next man on the moon and start doing that every year around the 2027, 28 timeframe. Our first mission is in the queue and being developed for this cargo delivery to the Gateway in 2027. So my job at Deep Space Logistics is to look ahead to mitigating risks and understanding problems that we may face for NASA in the logistics supply chain into deep space, and then try to find ways to solve them before we actually have problems. And one area we've identified is what we call point of use recycling for optimized space age logistics. We worked with SBIR Ignite a couple of years ago and put this topic out. We were focused on plastic recycling. Our responsibility in logistics supply, as you might imagine, there's a lot of cargo packing materials that go on every logistics mission. We're going to be sending about 5,000 kilograms per mission to the Gateway. A lot of cargo packing kilograms are in that, foams, plastics, everything from Ziploc bags to nylon bags. The foams and other hard plastics are really a lot of what make up that cargo packing, and that's going to be hundreds of kilograms per mission. And we really want to get away from the idea of having to take all that trash out. If we're going to spend all the money to put it there, let's do something with it. So we thought, hey, let's find a way to optimize our logistics supply chain and make use of that cargo packing material. And we'll engage the community and the small business community and the innovative thinking around the United States to try to understand what can we do with that? How can we recycle it? What can we turn it into? So we did that. We have 2 companies in phase 2. And this year, we're going to redo this topic, focusing more on another major source of potential reuse, which is aluminum. Aerospace aluminum makes up a significant amount of structure inside these logistics modules, racks and shelves and handholds and grommets and all kinds of things, mostly made out of aerospace grade aluminum. We want to find ways to actually get the crew to pull these things out of our logistics module and recycle them for other purposes, either in space around the moon or on the lunar surface, to be able to help build habitats or tools or whatever it is that they might need. We're also interested in a couple of things we learned from the last round, which is cargo packing materials and aluminum are probably pretty clean in some ways, but there's a lot of dirty waste up there that we're going to be producing, food packaging waste and things like that, that we need to learn how to either clean it to repurpose it and recycle it, or decontaminate it, or use it in a not completely sterile and clean way to do recycling. So, how to take used food containers that are lightly washed or something else like that and recycle it in space with a small power, mass, and volume footprint and turn it into something useful that the crew can use. That's a huge challenge that we also see this year potentially for solicitation. And then finally, Another major source of the waste is these nylon bags that we found in the last round are not useful for 3D printing type recycling. We're looking for other ways to repurpose those nylon bags, which make up quite a number of kilograms, and they could be repurposed into blankets or sleeping bags or partitions, or they could possibly be broken down and gasified and then reconstituted into other feedstocks and constituencies. So that's really the three topic areas we're focused on, but aluminum recycling is one that NASA has identified for serious consideration, and we know that'll be coming forward. So thank you. Back to you, Donna.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jeff. And that concludes kind of all of the presentations that we have. And now we're going to go into Q&A. If you have any questions, make sure to put it into the Q&A and we'll get them answered for you. Okay, let's start off with the first question. This is from Anonymous. I think this might be best handed off over to Haley. But Haley, Anonymous asks for the battery technologies. Oh, sorry. This is from Akena, who asks, what aspects of SBIR proposals are given the most weight?
That is a great question. So a lot of the details about how we evaluate proposals are located in the solicitation. So you're going to hear me say that a lot and point you back to the solicitation. Our 2023 solicitation is available on our website if you want to review that. But just for awareness, the evaluation criteria are listed in Chapter 4 of our solicitation. We have 4 different factors. One is commercial potential, and that's about 30% of the score. One is the work plan, effectiveness of the work plan, that's 20%. The technical feasibility of your, research and development plan are 30%. And the other 20% is your experience and qualifications and what facilities you have available. But there are detailed descriptions of what that means, and you can find all of those details in the solicitation.
Thank you, Haley. Okay, next question is from Anonymous. Anonymous asks, is the Ignite program interested in next generation battery materials manufacturing? Thank you. So I guess maybe the first caveat to that is the topics for NASA SBIR Ignite for this year's solicitation have not yet been chosen, but maybe Shay or Susanna, you can talk to whether battery materials manufacturing is something of interest that you both have been looking at.
Yeah, so I can go ahead and speak to that a little bit. So in order to reach these energy density goals that we will need to meet in order to enable electric aircraft, next generation battery materials manufacturer is something that certainly should be considered. So short answer, it is something that we are interested in.
Anything to add to that, Susanna? Sounds like we're
Nope,
good.
I think that covers it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, and another question for Shay and Susanna. This comes from Anonymous. Concerning aviation batteries, what are the biggest constraints that industry currently cannot address? What is an ideal solution that is commercially viable for aviation batteries that can be addressed with today's technology? Are you looking for a modular approach or one that can be integrated in the body or airframe of the vehicle? And what do you see/envision as a feasible demonstration of this technology? So it seems like those are 4 different questions in one, but yeah, over y'all's.
I will try to tackle a couple of these. So concerning aviation batteries, what is the biggest constraint the industry currently cannot address? Gravimetric energy density is one of the biggest things that cannot be met at this point, with state-of-the-art really being lithium ion, and that sitting at 225 to 250 watts per kilogram. That does not enable fully electrified flight of commercial vehicles. Okay, let's look at these other questions. So an ideal solution that is commercially viable for aviation batteries that can be addressed with today's technology. The answer to that question is it really depends. The solution is going to depend on what aircraft you're trying to electrify or make a hybrid electric solution. So
I think I can
for,
speak to the next two, maybe, Shay.
go ahead.
So this is more vehicle integration questions, it looks like. So, right, we'd be looking, I think we're interested in the entire concept of it, right? So batteries and their development at the cellular level and the pack level of batteries, but also the integration with the aircraft. So the electronics that need to interface with it, physical interfaces with it, cooling, how that would fit into an aircraft, size-wise, weight-wise. We need to look at reducing weight with all of our applications for electric aircraft. So I think we're really interested in the entire package of what could come with batteries and what all they could come with to integrate into an aircraft. Really kind of a wide range of options with that. And so I guess the last question there is a feasible demonstration of this technology would be, testing batteries obviously in a laboratory, but also demonstrating it on some kind of electric aircraft UAV platform in the future, whether that's NASA or industry or whoever the partner is on that platform. But that would be the end goal of a development like that.
Perfect. Thank you both so much. Okay, next question is going to be for Jeff. Sarah asks, will the components or ingredients contained in the items to be recycled be provided, e.g. food containers?
Let's see. We can provide some materials and examples of those kinds of materials. For phase one, we probably would just tell you what the materials are because they're almost all off the shelf things you can buy easily to test yourself and buy in quantities that you want. For a phase two, we may engage more directly with you and bring materials or examples of pieces of used, space waste or used aluminum that more closely mimic what NASA's stuff is going to look like once it gets used in space. So that would be more of a phase two thing. Partnership for phase one probably will just tell you what, how much of what material is on a typical mission and focus on things that you can probably buy yourself.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Jeff. Okay, and over back to Shay and Susanna from Anonymous. They ask, for the battery technologies applied to UAVs and aircraft, what are the most important parameters you are looking for? A higher energy density or longer life cycle?
So for the application that we're looking for, both are going to be equally as important.
Okay, thank you for that. Another question from Anonymous is, does the battery integration path include battery cell development, or is the focus on onboard energy storage system and electric propulsion?
Basically, to echo what Susanna previously said, is we're interested in both. Both are needed for enabling electrified aviation.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just kind of add on to that, we're interested in all these aspects, and part of the goal of partnering with Ignite here is that we're looking for companies who are proposing to also have industry customers that they're targeting with these applications. So, we kind of try to make it broad and these calls broad enough that things could apply in multiple ways. So if you're looking at down at the specific cell level, you're looking at the entire integration. If you also have a path for that to be a product to market and with industry customers, that's really what we're interested in specifically with these Ignite SBIRs, as commercialization is a really big goal here. So, I think all of this stuff is what we're interested in, and just how you can fit both to industry needs and NASA needs with that kind of technology.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, another question from another anonymous asks, are Shay and or Susanna's offices interested in battery packs that also bear structural loads for the aircraft or significantly reduce the volume taken up inside the aircraft?
I'd say the answer is yes. We're interested in all of that. As far as volume taken up, yeah, definitely. The big goal of these hybrid electric aircraft is to make everything lightweight, right? Because we want better, quote, quote, fuel economy out of these aircraft so we can compete with true gas planes. And making everything lighter weight is certainly a way to do that. So I think there's, definitely interested as far as volume and density and everything. And if there is some path to integrating structural loads, that's an interesting idea. And I'm sure there's a platform for that somewhere that exists. I haven't thought about that one myself, but it's definitely an interesting idea.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, another question on batteries before we move over to the question on recycling. So this question comes from Anonymous. Can you elaborate what technology NASA is working on to incorporate batteries into modules for aviation applications? Is it anode-free?
So unfortunately, I cannot get into the specifics due to the nature of the work we're trying to accomplish, but overall, we are looking at commercial partners to get cells from that we can incorporate into modules that we're building in-house.
Thanks, Shay. Okay, and this question is going to be for Jeff. For recycling, is aluminum recycling the only focus, or will solutions that deal exclusively with dirty waste / food packaging waste be considered for funding?
For our deep space logistics project at NASA, those are the two priorities that we've submitted to the SBIR Ignite program. Two issues that we need to address, and they're separate. The aluminum recycling one is important to us, and there are hundreds of kilograms of aluminum that can be recycled. So we really are excited about that. The dirty plastic waste is the other area where we really feel like with the previous SBIR Ignite, we got some phase 1 and phase 2s that did a good job of taking more clean waste and turning that into something, the plastic and packaging waste. But we realized that it's not always going to be clean, that there's dirt and contamination in this stuff, and we didn't crack that nut. So we do want to try to find out if there are ways being investigated here on Earth to take dirtier things that have other constituents and components to them, and plastic, mixed types of plastic even would be considered a dirty waste stream. 2 or 3 different types of plastic put together. So that's a separate thing. Aluminum is one. Contaminated or dirty or mixed plastic waste would be the other. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, we have 2 last questions here, both from Anonymous, and they're both going to be on batteries, so there's going to be for Susanna and Shay. The first question is, does integration include charging infrastructure?
I'd say yes, we're definitely interested in charging infrastructure along with the batteries. They obviously need to be charged in some way, so that would be part of the application. I think it would fit exactly what we're interested in.
Okay, and the last remaining question we have on here, if anybody has any other questions that haven't been answered, feel free to drop them into the Q&A or in the chat. But the last question we have here from Anonymous is quoting the description of this AMA, which is saying components are sought for integration, ground, and potential flight testing for a 1,500-pound class hybrid electric drone, or a customer application defined by the proposer. For this customer application defined by the proposer, how much can this deviate from the 1,500-pound class hybrid electric drone that is of core interest? Could the customer applications we propose also be for satellites, as that is where we have our first customer interest?
I can take a crack at this. So I think there's a couple questions kind of in here. Customer applications, I think that's a pretty wide field there. So, it doesn't have to be like, I think satellites are definitely a valuable customer application, right? If it's a battery, it can be used in electric aircraft, UAVs, satellites, you know, if it's capable of integrating into all those places without significant changes to the product, because again, we're really looking for products that can be pushed to market quickly for Ignite. I think that's perfectly applicable as long as you come up with a way to kind of hit all those targets. As far as deviation from the 1,500 pound class, I think, you know, that's obviously what was stated in the thing, so it's what we're interested in. However, that doesn't exclude other ideas. I'm not sure if I have specifics on how far of a deviation is acceptable. It's kind of a wide, broad topic there. Shay, do you have any other input on that half of it?
No, unfortunately, I do not.
Okay, I think we can go on to the next question. The next question is there any opportunity to make use of the electrochemistry facilities at JPL if we get a SBIR award?
I can take that one, Donna. Just as a general understanding of how working with government facilities works in SBIR, you do have the opportunity to make use of government facilities, but we do highly suggest that you do not include that in your phase one proposal because of the short period of performance and the long lead time that it takes to get into those facilities. But it is a possibility, and it's much more common in phase two. But there are instructions in the solicitation about how to include that description in your proposal. But if that is something that you're interested in, and as you start to prepare your proposal, I would highly suggest you beginning those conversations with whatever facility you're interested in working with as early as possible so that you can get their right arrangements made in advance.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Haley. Okay, and then we have one more question from Anonymous. What is the target cell level gravimetric energy density for the aviation battery application?
So for this call, that's not necessarily something that we have set for a metric to meet, but overall, we are looking for solutions that can be applied to commercial aircraft or other solutions related to this call.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. And that is the end of all the questions that we have in Q&A. If anyone has any additional questions, please drop them in Q&A. We also just launched the ending poll for you to say whether the session was as helpful as it can be. We're always trying to improve and make these as to bring as much value as we can. But yeah, I think we're going to do a little wrap up. Maybe if Haley, Susanna, Shay, Jeffrey will go around the horn, do a little round robin to wrap up the session. Maybe we can start off with Jeff.
Maybe we can. Okay, there. I think I'm being heard, right?
Yes. Oh, actually,
Okay.
Jeff, we did get some more questions in. So before we wrap up, this is actually
Okay.
perfect timing. We have a question that is targeting you. So this is from Jacob. Jacob asks, for recycling, is there a preference for in-space or lunar surface operations?
We're going to be careful not to make a preference. So I did say we are Deep Space Logistics delivering to the gateway, but everything we're delivering to the gateway, which is in space, is also related to getting supplies down to the lunar surface to support lunar surface activities. So either one is okay. We're not going to be biased either way. But if your technology could work in microgravity or partial gravity, as well as Earth gravity for commercial purposes, that would be the best of all worlds. But we're not going to be emphasizing lunar surface or microgravity applications particularly. So have at it, whichever one works best for you and your commercial needs. Thank you. Okay, and I'll just do a quick, for me, wrapping up, for deep space logistics, we are really trying to be a part of the solution for sustainable deep space exploration, sustainable exploration. NASA really needs to figure out, we're going to spend all the money to get commodities there. We need to make every use of every kilogram to the best possible extent. And we have to do it without a lot of power, without a lot of mass, without a lot of crew time involvement. It's got to be kind of robust and easy to operate. All those things that would really be beneficial here on Earth for us to use in our kitchens or garages. To recycle other types of things that we generate in the way of waste and really reduce our waste streams here on Earth and kind of distribute that recycling capability out to the point of use, the point to where people are generating the waste and can use the recycled product. So we really think this topic has a lot of important need for NASA, but also has a really good chance of being sellable and developable in a business model here on Earth for everyday use. So we're really excited about it and hope we'll get to see some more great proposals and awards this year. Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff. Really appreciate that wrap up as well. We'll do one more question and then we'll get into the wrap ups of everybody else. So one more question, this might be best for Haley. Anonymous asks, is it possible to have an equipment heavy budget? The supplies for a proposal are very inexpensive, but we need as many potentiostat/galvanostat instruments as we can get.
So my guidance would be to make sure that whatever you put in your budget includes time to do the work that you're gonna do. So when the budget's evaluated, it's really evaluated to see if it makes sense. And so, as long as there's alignment with what you say you're going to accomplish in that 6-month period and what you want to have, I would take all of that into consideration, read the solicitation guidance really clearly, and I'll go from there.
Awesome. Sounds good. Okay, let's go to Susanna for last wrap-up words.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for all the good questions. It sounds like there's a lot of interest in the battery area. And just to kind of reiterate, the main point, I think, is to, read the solicitation when it does come out to make sure you're aligning with that, but also focus on where industry will be able to buy your product and how that can fit both NASA and industry. And in general, we're really interested in these batteries and how they integrate on electric and hybrid electric aircraft and all the aspects of that. Thanks.
Thanks, Susanna. Okay, over to you, Shay.
Yeah, Susanna summed it up awfully well. The only thing I can really say that summarizes that is we as NASA aren't looking just for technology that benefits us, but we are looking at technology for the benefit of all humanity.
And close us out, Haley.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day. If you do have more questions, if things pop up along the way, Donna, can you drop the help desk email in the chat so they have access to that? It's referenced in the webpage a lot as well, but you can ask your questions there and we can give specific guidance to you or get you connected to the right people to get you the answers that you need. So I know sometimes in these meetings, those don't like crop up in your head and then you start reading something or looking into it and might have more questions, but we would like to continue those conversations. So do reach out to the help desk if you have more questions. Thank you so much for joining today. And thank you, Donna, for doing all the arrangement of this. Oh, we can't hear you, Donna.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please watch out for an email with the recording for this. We'll also send you a Slack invite to join the conversation that's happening on Slack to continue these discussions and answer any questions that you might have. But thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday, and we'll see you at the next event. Thanks so much.